Hey, what's up everyone? It's time for another episode of Figure News. It's been a minute since we did a traditional figure update like this actually, just going over new products recently shown off and whatnot. But today, we're going to be talking about a few events that happened over the past few days from MegaHouse and Prime1 Studios. And for the hell of it, I'm going to throw in some anime figures from other companies that I think you guys would be interested in, but weren't tied to any event, and honestly, I have no idea when they'll be for sale. In fact, let's just start off with those. Since there was only 4 to go over, it should be quick. First up, I want to talk about Ryza from Amakuni, yet another Ryza, but we did know about this one for quite some time, and in my opinion, I think even from these few shots we have that this is one of her better figures. If I didn't have Max Factory's one pre-ordered, I'd likely get this one. Hell, maybe I still will, I'm not really sure. But we've gotten a lot of normal Ryza, we've gotten a lot of swimsuit Ryza, but this one is a mix of both, where Ryza's in the middle of changing into her swimsuit that she conveniently had underneath her normal clothes. I think this figure's just got it all. An extremely adorable face, a really playful and inviting pose, plenty of fan service from her bikini top to her extremely thick thighs, and I think for such a small base, they absolutely killed it on the details. The grass and the plants, they all just look so lovely, and I bet the official promo shots are gonna look insanely nice. My only issue, I guess, is having 3 support points to keep her up, but I'd rather have that than any leaning issues. Amakuni is like a really great company, so this one is basically guaranteed, in my opinion, to turn out exceptionally well. Okay, next up we got an update for Toga from Spirit Tail, a figure I've been dying to see painted. Unfortunately, the only photo we have is not the most well shot, but whoever did take this photo, I do thank you greatly. It was really hard to gauge how they were going to paint this figure, especially the base as it makes up most of this figure's composition, but I think some people aren't going to like it. Rather than being vibrant and cutesy, the colors are dull and dirty, and it really does feel like she's sitting on a bunch of trash. And I don't really know how I feel about it, because as a concept, this does make sense. She is in fact sitting on a bunch of worn out toys and clothes, among other things. Nothing here should really be pristine, but I almost feel like the colors are stuck in like an awkward point of not committing hard enough to the theme. It's a bit hard to describe or even tell if my description is accurate until we get more photos, but right now I think I'm a bit let down by the execution. I'm also not a fan of her hair. Translucent plastic usually doesn't work for me with hair, but especially when it's used as much as it is here. I don't know, I feel bad not liking this one because I really do love how Toga herself looks. Her face is just super cute, and I think I said this last time, but I really like how she's just kind of holding her hands to her cheeks. I think that's a nice little cute detail as well. But I don't know, do you guys agree with me on this one? I definitely need to see more before making the final judgment. So this next one is an original character done by the artist of the Ryza games actually, and when I first saw it, I thought she was naked, but it's just buttons that are placed on her bra. But either way, this is a 1/6 scale bunny figure of sorts, much different take on the typical bunny outfit, but I think Neon Max is going to make a lot of money with this one. We don't know the price yet, but she's already got a release date of March, so she should be going up any second now. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight her because I think she could go under the radar. There's a lot of obvious reasons to like this one. Thicker than Ryza in the chest, very similar attention to detail with like the thigh skin indentation and just like plumpness. Really cute lingerie. It's sort of like a reverse bunny outfit except a bit more reserved, if you can believe that. The puffy sleeves also look really well sculpted, and just the overall color palette is really soft on the eyes. Perhaps a bit too soft maybe. I think there's an argument to be had about the shading on this figure. It is a bit flat in that regard, and the outfit and skin almost blend together, which makes them kind of hard to distinguish unless you're really up close. I really do wonder how much this one's going to cost though, because if it's a low enough price tag, I might be tempted to get it. And finally, for our miscellaneous figures, I have just an announcement to share. Revolve is making an Amane Kanata figure from Hololive. Assuming this is the pose they're going with, I think this one has a lot of potential to be a really cute figure. I do hope they commit to the stars on the base though, like make them that big and be sure not to skimp out on the gold paint. Okay, so let's start talking about Prisma TV next, which, yeah, I don't really know how else to say it. It was kinda disappointing. It actually premiered the same day I'm recording this. I wake up early normally anyway, so I watched it live and there was only 2 figures shown off. One that already went up for pre-order this week, and the other one being an actual update. But I really don't even know why they felt the need to rush another one of these out if they didn't have a lot to discuss. I mean, I'd rather wait. I think these sort of reveals are much more exciting when you have a lineup of stuff to go over. But either way, let's jump into it with Kuro from Prisma Ilya. She's been painted and you can buy her right now for somewhere between 23,000 and 25,000 yen, which I think is a tiny bit more expensive than Ilya was, but I couldn't really tell you why that is. Unfortunately, just like Ilya, Kuro is forced onto this background piece of the base with the floral patterns in the shape of a heart. Still looks really tacky to me and I just can't get over it, but the rest of the figure does look fairly nice. She doesn't look quite as cute to me when compared to Ilya. I was fairly impressed when I saw her painted a few months back, but I think it's just the expression on Kuro's face, or the eyes perhaps. Sorry, I'm not really being too descriptive here, but I just can't really put my finger on it. On the positive side though, I really do like her hair sculpt. The overall paint job on this figure looks solid, and like I said last time, I do enjoy the way her waist, robe, cape, whatever it's called, is all shredded up and slapped onto the base. I just wish it wasn't against those flowers. The other figure at the event was Kurumi from Data Live. Last time we saw her unpainted prototype, but this time we have her fully painted, and I'm a bit mixed on this one now that we're fully seeing her. Personally, I really like the sculpting of her dress, just the overall design of the way it's flowing and the paint applications seem to have come through really nicely, and the clear plastic used in the middle of the dress is also a pretty interesting choice. I'm actually not sure if it's clear plastic or some kind of like reflective paint. It's a bit hard to tell, but in some of the shots it looks pretty nice. I also think both of her guns look really cleanly sculpted as well as her hair, but a lot of the reasons why this is going to be on the expensive side aren't really impressing me, like her pedestal she's standing on. It's just a shiny piece of plastic with some gold trim circling it. The gear underneath it would probably just look better on its own. The flames also don't really feel like they're adding anything to this figure. I sort of like how they're colored, but for this figure it almost feels distracting. And the big clock behind her is fine. I did expect it to be a bit more detailed and maybe have some like actual sculpting on it, like on the gears and the numbers, but it seems to just be a printed piece. I think you can display her without it or flip it around since they talked about swappable parts, but yeah. Also, apparently this was shown off in an event like a month ago, so I guess if you were keeping up with all the news, then nothing was shown at this event, which is kind of a bummer, but it's not the biggest deal. At least this was pretty short. Next up, let's talk about MegaHobby Plus, Spring Edition, or just April. Basically, these events are smaller update announcements that they seem to want to do every month or so. And yeah, there wasn't really too much at this event, around 20 announcements in total spanning over 2 days, but it doesn't mean there wasn't anything of interest. Let's start by going over Yamato from One Piece. Last time we saw this figure, it was in its prototype phase, but as we can see, they've been fully painted this time, and I think the execution actually succeeded my expectations. I was hoping the colors on this figure would really shine through, and that they do. I think one of my favorite details actually is surprisingly the club, or whatever it is. I didn't expect them to do a mix of dark iron metal as well as like browning rust. I really like that paint choice, it looks surprisingly nice. The shading on the pants as well as the colors on the giant pretzel bow also just look fantastic in my opinion. I do wish the hair, again as a personal thing, wasn't translucent. I think I would have liked it much better if it had a matte finish, but it's not really a deal breaker or anything. I think it looks fine. The retail price on this one is pretty up there though, at around just under 26,000 yen. So expect to dent your wallet if you plan to pick this one up. They're also re-releasing Ace from the Portrait of Pirates Deluxe line. I believe this is his third release, and from some of the comments I've read, it seems like the general opinion is that this didn't really need to be re-released, so yeah. Definitely a nice looking figure though. I particularly am a fan of the happy face. I get this warm sense of nostalgia when I look at him. The Portrait of Pirate figures aren't shy about optional parts, so between the arms, the face plates, and even the bag strap, you got a couple of options here for your optimal setup. Continuing on with the updates from last time, we're also getting the final painted prototypes of both Patamus and Emma from the Gundam line. But at 17 and 18,000 yen though, these two are just way overpriced in my opinion. I really think the sculpting quality and like the paint are fine for these figures, but that's a lot of money to be asking for overall very simple figures that don't even really have optional parts as far as I can tell. Nothing wrong with simple figures, but I prefer not to feel robbed when I buy them. And last up for the painted scales is this palm-sized Tokido-san from Demon Slayer. All huddled up, fits right in your hand. Another simple figure, but this time the price is much more reasonable at just under 7,000 yen. I really don't have much to say about this guy. I mean, this figure is pretty cute, but I'm waiting until the next season airs to see how much I like this character, but the affordable price tag makes this one inoffensive at the very least. While we're talking about Demon Slayer though, let's go over these next two announcements, which are just silhouettes unfortunately, but we get a pretty good idea of what they're going for with these. First up is a new Tengen Uzui figure depicting him in the middle of a battle, blades out, hairs down, likely standing on the aftermath of Yutaro's and Daki's attack on the red light district. This one to me is looking much more interesting than Mega House's previous Uzui figure, the laying down one, which was fine, but not really what I think would get the fans to throw their money at this company. Hoping this one nails his face because it honestly does have a lot of potential. And the other figure silhouette they had to show off from Demon Slayer was Rengoku, specifically the flame-breathing 5th form Flame Tiger version. This isn't the first time we've seen crazy, ambitious Rengoku figures with tons of flame effects, so I'm not specifically sure what this one can do to stand out above the rest. But like all the other Rengoku figures with flames, I'm assuming this will be a shelf hog. It's really going to come down to those flame effect parts, but I've seen really nice examples of effects from Mega House before, so I actually think this one could turn out great. Next up, we've got a couple of Jujutsu Kaisen updates to show off. First, we have the prototype for the Gojo DX figure from last time. You know, I think the thing I like about DX figures is how they generally go for compositions that sort of match what larger scales or larger statues bring to the table, but at a much smaller scale. It's fairly hard to come by 1/7 or 1/8 scale figures that look like this, so I do appreciate their efforts. That being said, not too crazy about Gojo's face, but that seems to be my issue with many Gojo scales, so perhaps I'm just being very picky. I do think the effect parts circling him with the sparks all coming from the center of his hand come together really well in this figure, but exactly how those effect parts are painted will definitely be the deciding factor on this. We're also getting a Kento Nanami figure. I honestly do forget if this was shown off last time, but my main issue with this one isn't anything with it actually. It's that Eastream is already doing a Nanami in a very similar pose. I mean, they're almost the exact same figure, but Eastream has a lot more detail on the base, while also giving his knife a really nice trail effect from the aura or the energy coming off of it. The only thing I'm liking more in the Mega House version when I'm looking at them side by side is how his shoulders and head are positioned, giving a better impression of motion as he loosens his tie. Eastream would still win in this case, and they kind of killed it with their Gojo release that just came out, so in my opinion, that's the one to look at. But price does matter, so we'll just have to wait and see how they stack up value-wise. Finally, for JJK, we're also getting an Itatori DX figure in the same style as Gojo. The floor's erupted, lightning sparks are flying everywhere, and there's powerful aura or shockwave surrounding him. Should be a cool one for sure. Definitely the concept looks nice, even though we can't see his face, but I bet we'll see the unpainted prototype in just a few months. This next one honestly might be the biggest surprise I don't think anyone saw coming, and one I can see tons of people picking up should it turn out well. Rankiku from Bleach is getting a 1/4 scale swimsuit figure from Freeing. Very hard to tell exactly what type of swimsuit she'll be wearing, but I'd be kinda surprised if it was a one piece knowing the character. She's definitely at the very least wearing some fancy high heels of some sort, so I gotta imagine it's gonna be a sexy swimsuit to match. And last up for the scale figure announcements was a teaser for an upcoming Kakashi figure where he's activating Susanoo. I gotta imagine this one's gonna look pretty cool based on the silhouette, and this one also comes with an LED base. So if the matching Itachi figure is anything to go by, this is going to cost anywhere from like 35,000 yen all the way up to like 45,000 yen. And last up were a few more figures in the lookup line. We're getting a few from Jujutsu Kaisen, the Evangelion boys were colored since last time, and we're even getting an Anya from Spy Family, though there's already a fairly similar Anya figure from Mega House in the gem line that isn't that much more expensive, so this one's a bit weird to me. Oh, and there's also these fluffy squeeze bread Spy Family things. I really do love the pastel colors on these. I kind of wish we got some more figures with color palettes like this. But anyhow, that's it for MegaHobby Plus. There's another one of these events next month apparently, so stay tuned for that. But let's wrap this up with Prime1 Studios. Not a company I usually cover outside of the Prisma Wing stuff, but I wanted to talk about a couple of specific statues in their recent showcase. Now, here's the thing though, their presentation was around 3 hours long, and there was a ton of statues shown off that doesn't really fit what I normally cover on the channel. So if you're interested in seeing everything they had on display, I'm going to link the video in the description for you guys to check out. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I mainly just wanted an excuse to talk about one specific statue they showed off, but figured, I'm here, why not? Let's talk about some others, like this one. Itatori and Sukuna are being paired up together in one figure with lots of optional parts, including face plates, arms. We got Sukuna's mouth emerging from Itatori's hand, which is cool. The blue flame effects look pretty nicely done as well, and both of their bases look really well detailed, but with extra emphasis on Sukuna's throne. It doesn't really seem like you're limited to positioning them in one way from the footage, so they can either be paired up or be facing each other. For me, this next one kind of caught me like super off guard, the Tower Knight from Demon's Souls, which could seem like a weird choice, but I think if you played Demon's Souls, especially when it first came out, or if it was your first Souls game, then it quickly becomes understandable why this would be made into a statue. For me, the Tower Knight is that first like holy shit moment of the game. Like, yeah, I was dying tons of times up until that point on my first playthrough, but you really don't forget the first moment you run into this guy so early into the game and you're told, hey, go kill him, and you're just like, how? Really good call on this one in my opinion, especially with the added knight on the bottom for scale. I like that detail. There was also an announcement for future Elden Ring figures, which is a no-brainer at this point, but nothing was shown. But after a few more announcements, we got to Terra from Final Fantasy VI, and I don't even really know where to begin with this one. I think it's likely a lot of you guys watching have heard the news on this, but here's the quick rundown. This wasn't the first time we saw Terra painted. She looked beautiful a few months back. Not only her sculpting, but the Magitech armor was insanely well detailed, and like no Final Fantasy fan could really turn themselves away from looking at this statue. I personally know someone who's getting ready to buy this, but we were left in the dark as far as prices went. Now, from an educated guess, I thought, $3,000, maybe up to like $5,000, depending on, just how much work needed to go into the statue. We recently got the Nier Automata statue with like all three main characters on this super crazy detailed base for around $3,000 or so, and that was a 1/4 scale. This Final Fantasy figure was only a 1/6, so I don't think I was wrong in my guess. But no, it wasn't $3,000 or $4,000 or even $5,000. No, Square Enix and Prime1 Studios wanted $12,000 for this, and I think at this point, the collective figure and statue community just broke. Complete mental shattered. I'm not trying to undersell the amount of work that needs to go into these statues, but I really just can't even imagine where this price is coming from at all, and I don't even know anyone who's actually gonna buy it anymore. I sure as hell know my friend isn't. With only 600 made and 150 of them reserved to Japanese residents only, there really aren't many of these to go around, but I think most, if not all of you watching this video, are probably fine with that, knowing that you won't be picking this up. But if you do, let me know. I'd honestly love to know someone who's going to pick this statue up. A few more statues I don't have that much to say about, but still were nice enough to showcase here were Andromeda Shun from Saint Seiya, as well as Yu and Hao from Shaman King. Actually, while I'm looking at them again, I do feel like both of the Shaman King figures kind of missed the mark when it comes to their faces. I'm not really liking them, unfortunately. There was also this really nice statue for Shingeki with the three main characters, as well as this like stone version of Aaron's Titan form. Though I think at this point I'd like to see more from the later seasons of the show instead of always focusing on seasons 1 and 2. These next two statues I think have been in development for a very long time. The Rei and Asuka 1/4 scale statues that come with these really big entry plugs. Comparing them to the older pictures, they have both seen major improvements over the course of all this time, and I think anyone could agree that it's all for the better. These changes kind of make them entirely new figures, specifically Asuka. Her entire pose was changed and her face was massively improved to the point where if I had to pick one, I'd say Asuka's figure looks much better between the two. And of course, we couldn't wrap up Prime 1 without talking about Berserk. There's two new gut statues that are going to make you choose between which armor style you prefer more. The Berserker Rage Edition or Unleash Edition, because otherwise they are essentially the same pose with minor tweaks to stuff like the arm position and the sword. At 1/3 scale, these two are going to be absolutely massive, and I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to look awesome. But what really has me interested to find out more was our last figure here, Griffith and Guts. So what they're doing is really interesting, and the execution is going to be vital to make sure that these two come out as beautiful as it currently seems it will be. So we have Guts and Griffith standing side by side on podiums based on this art piece many of you might be familiar with. I think this one is frankly one of the most beautiful statues I've ever seen, full stop, or at least potentially, since it's not fully painted. But I mean, come on, how can you look at this and just kind of not sit there in awe and take in the actual work of art that it is? I really do wish this would come at a smaller scale. I know it won't, but I'd be buying this in a heartbeat if I could. More updates can't come soon enough, so the wait to see the final product is gonna be killer. And that's gonna do it for today's figure news. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, found some stuff you liked, tried to cover a wide spread this time around. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for watching. If you feel like supporting the channel, feel free to like the video, leave a comment, or just subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date with my newest videos. Until next time though, I'll catch you later. See ya.